Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one!
Oladipo!
Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor.
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three in.
He hit it.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Of course, Jim Coyle with you as always. Dustin Schutte with me as well. Brought to you by our good friends from Endeavor Hospitality, part of the Wow Club. Make sure you go there and sign up. Join the Apple app at the Apple App Store, Google Play Store. Join the Wow Club today. They are a IU athletic sponsor as well as one of that Indiana Sports Beat Radio, as well as big thanks to Andy Moore Honda, of course. We're powered by Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Hope you're having a great day. Looks a little, I don't know, cloud cover out there. I can't tell. It's possibly going to rain, but it looks like that a lot lately without raining. Dustin Schutte sitting in with me as he has been doing. So I was just looking at a story about Carl Erskine in the paper. He's from Anderson. He played with the Dodgers of the 40s, the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Okay.
There's a bat that you can see, that bat right there with my finger is pointing. That is a Carl Erskine. That's Carl Erskine bat. He was a pitcher, but played with Jackie Robinson, played with Pee Wee Reese, Gil Hodges. This was just a crazy famous team. I'm just sitting there. There's a picture I'm looking at right now. Charlie Dressen. They won a pennant. Let's see. There's Gil Hodges, Carl Erskine, Pee Wee Reese. Let's see. I wonder where's Jackie Robinson? Don't see him in the picture. But oh well, just something I was reading, which is kind of funny, kind of cool.
It's
cool
always,
history, man.
It's always interesting. Like when you go back, this isn't exactly the same comparison, but you look at those like college teams that you'll see maybe 10, 15 years later. And like 4 of those guys are on an NBA team, and you're like, how did that team ever lose? There was just a graphic the other day with they did that with Duke, and I can't remember the players. It was like a Duke Gonzaga game, and I think like 7 or 8 of those players that were in the starting lineup made it to the NBA and are significant contributors. Like it's just to that point, you go back and you look at some of those rosters, and you're just like, how did this team ever lose? Look at all these names that are on this sheet. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. On the program today, Matt Taylor will join us as he always does. We'll check in to see what's going on with Colts at the Colts camp. Tyler Harris, Hoosiers for Good, the NIL consortium for Indiana University, as Indiana announces Hoosiers for Good announces a earlier than expected new class for their NIL collective. I think it's 12 new people on the roster. 11 of them are IU men's basketball players. The 12th was a Sydney Parrish women's basketball player. 12 of the I've got to do some quick math, or somebody can do it for me. 12 of the 13 scholarship players are now under an NIL deal with Hoosiers for Good. That leaves one that is not, and I haven't done the math to figure out who that is yet, but we will. But looking forward to talking to Tyler Harris, the executive director for Hoosiers for Good. He'll join us. Chris Denari from the Pacers as well. We'll get caught up on everything that's going up there. The NCAA transfer rule, Dustin, has been tabled until the end of August. I think that this now, well, everything has been momentum going towards, all right, let's do everything. I think this may not pass now. I mean, finally, there may be some stoppage for them. Like, okay, let's stop. Let's find an end point. There has to be an end point, and this is it. You cannot have complete free agency, which is exactly what that would be. That is nothing short of free agency for athletes, man.
Right. And already you can make the argument that you already have free agency, because legitimately, I mean, a player can obviously transfer as many times as they want. They're able to transfer the first time without penalty. And then anytime after that there is. But if you're a graduate student, then you can transfer to another institution. So theoretically, you could play at 3 different schools and not have to sit out one single season. So to me, that's a problem. But I do think it's a good thing that the NCAA, I don't know if I think it was the Division I committee, is basically tabling this. They need to have guardrails on this, because we can sit here and complain as fans as well. The players are just jumping from one school to the next. But as we've talked about on this show, it's not healthy usually for the student athletes to be jumping from one school to the other. You lose credits when you do that. A lot of those times, those kids won't end up in a better situation. You might start off at Indiana, you transfer once, now maybe you're playing at Ball State, and then if you transfer again, maybe you're going down to the Division II, Division III level. And looking back on it, I'd like to add, in 5 or 10 years, we're going to have a really good sample size. There needs to be a story on, do you regret transferring initially?
It's already showing. It's already
exactly.
showing. The numbers are already showing that the majority of those that use the transfer portal do it at their demise.
Right.
It is a small minority that exceeds or goes higher than they were previously. The majority are getting less minutes, are playing less, or they're not getting more. So the grass is not greener on the other side is what we're saying, or what we're seeing that has been proven out. We've got so much to talk about today. 4-star guard Dre Gribbs-Lawhorn decommits from Purdue. Purdue has just been, killing it with all these IU recruits, but now it's like they're getting there and they're like, okay, there's just a whole bunch of us here, I'm thinking. But I know Indiana has reached out to him already as well. I saw that, so we've got that to talk about. Oh man, that's pretty funny. Tannis Half 11 asked at Wyatt, do you think he asked to hold their championship trophies before he decommitted? That's a good one. Gotta give it to you, man. I love it. Yep. It's funny. That's funny. Wyatt says, going back to yesterday's conversation on Vin Scully, but it's mind-boggling to him that he announced the games for both Jackie Robinson and Clayton Kershaw. What a great point. What an absolutely astonishing point, as I was just earlier talking about the Dodgers of the old days. I was just talking to the guy. I mean, not just Jackie Robinson, Wyatt, but Carl Erskine, who is an Anderson, Indiana native, was a pitcher on that team. Pee Wee Reese was a centerpiece at second base, was from Louisville on that team. I had the great fortune I've told this story of being in Pee Wee's house, and he had this 2 rows of like 6 bats on this hanging thing, each like 12 total, but they were all bats from back then, from when he played. And I knew then, even though I was a stupid young punk, I'm like, I was just like, oh, if you could have shot a scene like with a camera and saw me just reaching out just to touch one of those, it would have been like one of those moments of, oh, where the lights come up, you know what I'm saying? Where the lights get bright and surround everything, because I knew what I was touching. I'm like, holy crap. That just kind of brings that story was wow. It's just ironic that all comes together today, but thank you for that. Is one hell of a point, Wyatt, and what a great story that is right there.
And he called he called Hank Aaron's record-setting home run, I believe. They talked about that yesterday during the Braves broadcast. I mean, just the amount of historical moments in the game of baseball that Vin Scully was a part of. I mean, it's truly remarkable. And then as you mentioned yesterday, he was on call for a lot of other things, like that catch in the 49ers Cowboys game.
The
catch. I mean, just so many things that I didn't even think. When I think of Vin Scully, I think of baseball, and I think that's not uncommon. But he did so much more than just baseball commentary. That it's you go through, and there's you could build a library of all the games and all the things he accomplished in his life. That's
more
something
I start thinking about it, I wonder if he may be the announcer that may have spanned the greatest and maybe called more of the biggest moments than anybody else, because he has such a wide range. When we're talking about the fact that you point out, he was there when Jackie Robinson was breaking the color barrier and the Brooklyn Dodgers were in Brooklyn,
right?
Not Los Angeles. And that famous team that was on there, those names of historic icons of baseball. Gil Hodges, are you kidding me? You're gonna connect Gil Hodges and Jackie Robinson and Pee Wee Reese to Clayton Kershaw? Are you kidding me? How many decades does that span? That's 7.
I would
potentially at least 7 decades, if not potentially tapping on 8. I mean, if you're at the bottom of one and the top of another, but crazy. I just don't know. Yeah. And he did it. The reason he was able to do it is because everybody loved listening to him.
What's always crazy to me is not only did he call those games and get to watch those players, but when you have it from that perspective, when you're in the broadcast, you don't, like, he got to see those guys come up through the ranks. Like, they were just kids, and so it's just crazy. Like, we look back fondly and we're like, wow. And not necessarily the same, but Jackie Robinson, Babe Ruth, you look at those names, we look back and reflect on it because of the history, but he got to see those names you just mentioned. He got to see those guys as kids, basically, coming up through the ranks.
Absolutely. Man, plenty to get to today. Plenty to talk about. Mentioned the NCAA. All the Dolphins, they got slammed.
Yep.
They're a mess. That owner's a
hard mess.
I mean, Jacksonville and Miami now are messes.
Yep.
The Florida football programs are a mess. We mentioned the NCAA transfer rule tabled until the end of August. Kurt Busch missing his 3rd race in a row in NASCAR with concussion-like syndromes, similar to what Dale Jr. went through a few years ago. How about this? Brett Frude goes from being president of Stewart-Haas Racing, where he has been, I think, since the entire time, which is the NASCAR team, Tony Stewart's NASCAR team, to being the commissioner of the National Lacrosse League.
Huh.
I'm like, but that's interesting. I mean, that's funny.
That's like another crazy thing we saw yesterday. College Game Day hired a Peloton instructor to be a reporter.
Okay, we'll get to that later on. You've got to remind me of that. I can't. That's at the end of the show. Also, at the end of the show, we'll talk about your bourbon documentary. Draw Gibbs Lawhorn decommits from Purdue. Not sure that there's any interest from Indiana because not sure that there's any room really. They're already pretty much pegged in on their guys that they want. 12 of 13 IU basketball players now have NIL deals. under Hoosiers for Good. Tyler Harris will be with us today to talk about that. And Matt Taylor, Chris Denari as well. Lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. Brought to you by our good friends at BB's Market. They are your local meat shop, steakhouse, caterer. No matter where you live, some of the best custom meats around. BB's Market has the largest variety of in-house made products you'll find as well. You can reach out to them. Visit bbsmarket.com for online ordering. And yeah, we're going to talk about having a chili contest at like a football game or something. I'll be in for that. I'll kill it. I mean, I remember going to a chili contest among some friends, Mark and Roberta Helmer, some school friends of mine down at home, but it was all family, and you come in, and I'm like, you're getting screwed to begin with because the families they're like, right. I'm like, no, that stuff was, there was some that had noodles in it. Noodles. If you put noodles in chili,
DQ.
Out.
You get
out,
DQ.
baby.
Hey, let me tell you, when I was in college, there was a makeshift, and I didn't participate actually, unfortunately, but they did for 2 years a chili cook-off contest in like early spring. So it was still kind of that transition period where it's just cold enough out and one of the team's strategies was to make their chili spicy enough to where if people tried it first, they couldn't really they couldn't really taste the other chilies. It would still leave that other taste in their mouth. I don't think they won, but it was a unique strategy.
Hey, we got to take a quick break. Matt Taylor joins us next. We'll hear what's going on with the Colts and see if I've made the roster yet. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from BB's Market right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting...
Good morning, Matt.
What's up?
Isn't it funny how Jim magically thinks he's going to appear on the roster every week?
Every year.
Every year.
I'm driving in the rain. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear that rain too.
Awesome. Yeah, it's coming down.
You remember Dustin told you I have these new magical headphones where I can hear everything.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't hear the rain at all. Okay, let me see here.
Dustin, what's the win total for the Hoosiers this year? We get the 6 or no?
I would ask him. I'm going to, oh boy. I think.
Where are we getting?
Here's the thing. Go ahead. You say you're.
I'm going to say 5. I'm going to say 5.
5.
I think
there are different scenarios, Matt, and obviously you know this better than anybody. And I think we've talked about it enough on this show recently. Indiana's season, I think, at least right now, rests on what happens in the Illinois game.
I mean, they have to win.
That's why, Jim, I said we've said it so many times already. But
right, they have to win every winnable game on their schedule. Like,
right, because if they win the Illinois game, then you have your 2 easiest games on the schedule right after that with Idaho and WKU, followed by a road game on the road against a not bad but not as good as last year's Cincinnati team. And if you're able to get out of that opening stretch 4-0, that changes the entire narrative. Like Jim said, we've said this all week, but
there's no chance they're winning at Cincinnati.
No chance. None.
Chance.
I like how we got John fired up this morning.
Anytime we talk about Indiana football, it's hard for me to shut up.
I like it though. I like it.
He is a group of 8 people that is the case for.
Put me in the same boat with respectable Adam and
they're starting a new bowl game for the group of 8.
Group of 8.
Group of 8 people.
Oh.
Hello, Matthew.
How we doing? Can you hear me?
Like a beautiful siren singer, baby.
All right.
You've got to get a picture up for your avatar.
I know.
Like a Colt, just like put a Colts logo up or something.
Do it. Can you do it for me?
We can't do it. You have to do it.
Oh, I got to do it? Oh, well,
yeah.
It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. All right, here we go.
Network. TheHoosier.com is where you can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on this station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Thursday, brought to you by our good friends from RE/MAX Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference in you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl, at IndyHomePros.com. Speaking of Indy coach, man, Matt Taylor joins us. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm driving up to camp in the rain today, so I'm not sure if it's raining up in Westfield here at the moment. I guess we'll find out. If so, the Colts will go indoors, but it's been a pretty uneventful camp so far, which is, I mean that in a good way, because the last couple of years have been filled with events and distractions and things that have sort of derailed the start of the season. So it's actually a nice little breath of fresh air to just be focusing on football and guys on the field instead of injuries and COVID and, junk like that, which has sort of dominated the landscape the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, a lot of talk around the Colts and the offense, what it's going to be like. It's kind of similar to Indiana, the Hoosiers, with one exception. The Colts are out for everybody to see what they're going to do, and Indiana has been under cloak and dagger with everything, so no idea with them. You've got some Michael Pittman, big fight going on with him, getting at it. That's part of the action, though. I mean, you've got to bring it. It's kind of establishing territories and all of that stuff. There's a whole hierarchy that is set that I don't know that people realize, Matt.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it a fight yesterday. I would classify it more in the category of a skirmish or I mean, and listen, that's to be expected, especially with a guy like Michael Pittman Jr. Because I mean, if you go back to last year, late in the season, a really important game on the schedule with New England, he actually got kicked out of that game for getting involved with a defensive back for New England. Now, he didn't start it, but, he was part of it, and, he threw some punches and, had some things to say for the Patriots. And, the same kind of thing applies here where it's, as of yesterday, you're a week into camp. The grind of camp is kind of settled in a little bit. And Michael Pittman Jr., if you don't know anything about him, like he is really, really ultra competitive and wants to win every rep, every play, no matter the setting. If it's in, clutch 2 minutes in the fourth quarter of a week 17 game or a Wednesday practice at training camp in the month of August, it doesn't matter. And he got into it a little bit with a veteran in Rodney McLeod, and, cooler heads prevailed. And I mean, I certainly don't want to downplay it or sweep it under the rug, but I mean, this is sort of commonplace for every NFL team once you start to get into the dog days of camp a little bit. So, I just kind of chalk it up to football, and, teammates at the end of the day kind of shook hands and, hugged it out, and, you just kind of move on. That's, if you've ever played sports, especially if you've ever played football, I mean, it's incredibly commonplace, and it didn't go any further than that. And, life kind of moves on.
If you're not having some of that there's not enough. I think if that didn't happen a little bit, you would wonder about your team's edge if they weren't, because you there's got to be, you got to be close to that edge all the time. Even though it's your own team, you've got to live on that edge and be able to be pushed over a little bit, even by your own teammate, to have that when you're in a game-like situation. Not that you're trying to have that go on, and that's not my intention, but you've got to be there.
I completely agree. And also, too, again, you're 6 practices in, but you're also a weekend, and you're around these guys. I mean, for those that don't understand, the Colts are with the Colts 24/7 once camp starts. They don't go home. They're not with their families. It's not like they go out to eat and they have all this time to themselves outside of practice and meetings. No, I mean it's camp, dude, and it's 24/7, and you're eating, breathing football, and you're around these guys all the time. And quite frankly, like, even though you like them, you're getting sick of them, and they know you know them on the field, and the defense understands the Colts offensive playbook like the back of their hand, especially when you factor in the offseason workout program. Everybody knows everybody in terms of how they run routes. The offensive line and defensive line, they all know each other's moves and, how they line up and things like that. I mean, Stephon Gilmore said to Alec Pierce the other day, hey, based on how you align and, how I kind of interpret your body language and where you're looking, I know what route you're going to run before you run it. And that's camp. Every team can say that. And so you're just kind of sick of each other in a healthy way, which I know sounds kind of oxymoron, but you just chalk it up to, tempers kind of flaring a little bit and the frustration of camp. It's just incredibly normal. That's the only way I can say it.
Matt, one of the things that I think is interesting heading into this season, and you mentioned, that not an eventful training camp so far, and that's a good thing, is some of the question marks we've seen for this team heading into the 2022 season is the wide receiver position. And to me, with some of those question marks, you can see a guy maybe like Paris Campbell emerge. And I think right now he's talked about ready to have a breakout season. He feels blessed to have this new opportunity. I think he has the potential to be, I don't know about number one, but he has a potential to be, when he's healthy, I think one of the top options in that passing attack. What have you seen from him so far?
Yeah, he's having a great camp so far. And, there's parts of Paris Campbell's game that we don't even know about. And he kind of stresses over that and has thought a lot about that over the last 4 years because of his lack of availability. And it kind of eats him up at night and keeps him up thinking, I'm capable of so much more than what I've shown, but people don't know about it because I've only played in 15 games in 3 years.
Yeah.
And he's having a great camp. He's making a lot of plays. It looks like he's really, on the same page and has a good rapport with Matt Ryan so far. He's one of his favorite targets in camp. And so far, so good with those young receivers that the Colts are gambling on that can blossom into more. And, I think the fans have looked at, the stat sheet all off season and they say, oh my gosh, our number 2 guy has played 15 games in his career. Our number 3 guy is a rookie. Our number 4 guy has been primarily a special teamer. Our number 5 and 6 are guys that, have basically had redshirt years the last couple of years in the NFL with Mike Strawn and Desmond Patman. So, who do we need to go sign? And the Colts have just stayed patient and they've, remained steadfast with their belief in these guys. Just because they haven't played doesn't mean they can't. So, it's all a big puzzle right now. We're every day in camp, we're putting another piece of the puzzle into the grand scheme of things, but we're not going to have the full answer until we're about a month into the regular season on whether or not this roll of the dice, by the Colts and Chris Ballard paid off, and we'll see kind of how it plays out. And I think every day, every week is another answer on how things are going, and we'll see if the Colts need to have a sense of urgency to continue to look on that veteran market at wide receiver to bring in a free agent.
I think one of the best I was going to say, I think one of the best remedies to having an inexperienced and young and wide receiver room, and we talked about this last week, we talked about it with Bob Kravitz the other day, is Matt Ryan. And I just read another story in ESPN basically saying where some of his teammates are like, he kind of can be a jerk on the field, but he demands your attention, and he kind of pushes those guys And Bob brought up a situation where he'll walk over to wide receivers and say, look, this is the situation. What are you supposed to do? This is the play. What are you supposed to do? So I think when you don't have that's good on any team, but especially when you have some question marks at wide receiver and among the pass catchers, I think that not only is Matt Ryan a great addition in terms of his arm and his talent, but in addition to his leadership qualities too.
I completely agree. And it all matters. I mean, these practices in August and really dating back to, May and the off-season workout program and OTAs and minicamp, all of these side conversations, all of these little things where you offer, mentorship and advice. And then just quite frankly, hey, here's what we need out of you. And we're not getting it. I think, he said, I'm not afraid I know I'm the new guy, but I lead based on how I see fit, case by case. And I'm not afraid to put my foot in somebody's, if I think that's what the situation calls for. And, just the other day, a good example of that, he's going over to Alec Pierce, after a 7-on-7 period and saying, kind of putting his arm around his shoulder saying, hey, this particular route, I need you to sit. I know you want to go over here, but I need you to sit, or I need you to go over there based on how the defense is playing you. So I think he's doing a really, really good job of being the leader, case by case, guy by guy. And, you can't be the same guy with all of your teammates. Your teammates react different to you. They respond differently to you based on, their personality. And so playing 15 years in the NFL like Matt Ryan has, he's understood that. And he's got this knack about, being able to get the best out of everybody. And that's just what a leader is able to do. And he's a different guy off the field than he is on the field, certainly. But when he's on the field, man, the guy's all business. He's about execution and efficiency and, just playing at a high level. And we're seeing that in practice because, practice is normally done 10 minutes before it's scheduled to because they're just playing up tempo and they're executing at a high level, getting a lot of plays in a short amount of time.
It reminds me, there's a line in Moneyball, Brad Pitt, when he's coming up to the character playing David Justice, and he's in the batting cage hitting, and Justice is, he's been a superstar for the Braves, and now he's on this kind of defunct Oakland A's team, and Billy Beane says, hey, I don't have you here. I'm not expecting you to be the player you was. I want you for the player that you are. I want to milk what you have and use it to tutor, to tutor and all of that. And you almost see that in a Matt Ryan role, with the exception that they are expecting him a little bit more. They don't expect him to be the guy he probably was 10 years ago, but they expect to milk every bit of what he has left, his knowledge, his experience, and everything that he brings with him.
No, I mean, he's under contract for this year and next year, and it's not crazy to think that the Colts might extend him if all goes well, close to his 40th birthday, maybe for a year or two based on how 2022 and 2023 go, which would be a huge blessing for the Colts because it would keep them competitive and they would have an answer in the short term at quarterback. They would have a viable answer at that. And it also allows them more time to get it right, either in the draft or swing big in a trade for the long-term answer for the franchise quarterback. So it's really right now a great situation for the Colts to be in. And based on what we've seen in camp, there's no diminishing returns on Matt Ryan. Now, he might not have the zip on the ball like he did in 2016 when he was the MVP of the league and the Falcons went to the Super Bowl. But I mean, I know it's camp, and listen, I mean, like I said, you can't get too excited or too down when you see things positively or negatively. But in 5 practices in camp, he's completing 72% of his passes. All right. So he's got a lot of playmakers around him. And the interesting thing is, Matt Ryan has not been on a winning team in the last 4 years. The Falcons have stunk. Lately under Matt Ryan, or with Matt Ryan on the team, I should say. But he's got an above average offensive line. He's got the leading rusher in the NFL and the best running back in the game, Jonathan Taylor. And he's going to have a top 15 defense. He's only had a top 15 defense twice in his career, and he's only had a top 10 rushing attack twice in his career as well. In both of those instances, Atlanta won 11 games in 2008, and in 2016, those things happened, and they went to the Super Bowl. So it's not like Matt Ryan has to throw it 50 times a game and has to carry this team. He just needs to be Matt Ryan, make the plays, and take what the defense is giving him and just do his job, and this team should have success. I said it a couple of weeks ago. If Matt Ryan has a typical Matt Ryan season, and by that I mean he's throwing for 4,000 yards, between 25 and 30 touchdowns, and is completing 66, 67% of his passes. If those things happen, the Colts win 10, 11 games and they make the playoffs. And they probably win the division.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a missing link. I think with the talent they've got around him on both sides of the ball, I think that's I would be hard pressed to disagree with anything you just said. I think they can be a contender then once the playoffs roll around. But one thing, I know we got to take a break here soon, but one thing, Matt, I know we talked about this in previous seasons, and I think Roger Goodell and I think the NFL scheduling committee heard your pleas, because I looked at the schedule. 4 primetime games right now on the schedule for the Colts, and 2 of them are at Lucas Oil Stadium. I know that's been an issue in the past, the Colts not getting a lot of those home games, but this year they've at least evened it out, so they're going to play 2 of those night games at home this season.
Yeah, it's exciting. They don't come until later in the season, right? They don't come until, I think, when's the first game?
The first night game is let's see, it's against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah. And then they play. Who's the second game? I should know this, but it's been 3 months since I've diagnosed the schedule in depth.
It's the day. The next home one is the day after Christmas against the Los Angeles Chargers.
That's right. Yeah, I knew they were holiday driven. No, I should know that, but yeah, I mean the Colts. It's weird. Since 2017, the Colts have played the fewest amount of home primetime games in the NFL. And it's not, I mean, you think about that. Jacksonville's had more. Cleveland has had more. Some of these downtrodden franchises, Tampa Bay outside of 2020 on when they acquired Tom Brady, they were not a good team. They had more home primetime games than the Colts. It didn't really make sense because the Colts, I mean, I know they haven't been in AFC championship games and things like that, but they haven't been as bad as some of those franchises. It hasn't made sense when you talk to the league. There's really no definitive answer when they give, that they give you. I talked to Mike North in the league office, and he's kind of a good media, public spokesperson for the NFL scheduling process. He's part of that process. And, he says, a lot of things kind of go into it. It's your matchups at home. Do you have good matchups at home that are primetime worthy? And I guess if you go back and look at the schedule, you can make an argument. The Colts just haven't had a lot of good, attractive home dates that are worthy of playing at night. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's always a good selling point for your city. You can market, your downtown landscape. It's always kind of like that good spotlight of your franchise playing, in front of the entire country when you're the only game on in that day part, if you will, whether you're Thursday night, Sunday night, or Monday night. So it's going to be exciting to see the Colts back at home under the lights, kind of showcasing what they have. And listen, we all know the more you win, that stuff sort of takes care of itself. And that's sort of been the argument against the Colts, sort of pointing out, hey, where are our home primetime games? Well, if you win, more people want to watch it, the more attractive you are. So hopefully those things kind of go hand in hand here in 2022.
Matt Taylor, I cannot thank you enough. Stay dry today, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week about what's going on with the Colts.
You got it, guys. Thank you.
You bet. Matt Taylor, the voice of the Indianapolis Colts, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Next up, Tyler Harris, Executive Director for Hoosiers for Good, joins us. Looking forward to talking to him. He's been with us before. Back with more, brought to you by our good friends at Barber Pop Realty Services. If you're in the market for a home in southern Indiana, down by Louisville, Floyd, Clark, Harrison counties, you need the services of Barber Pop Realty Services. 30 years they have covered that area. Reach out to Matt at barberpop.com. Back with Tyler Harris right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
The sun is out. The bird. Hello.
What's going on?
Are you still down at the die course?
No, I came back.
I'm kidding. I was kidding. I didn't think you were.
I wish I was, though.
I could literally stay there. I'm serious. I could put a. Have you been up inside the mansion? I mean, up inside. It's like second floor.
No, I didn't go up.
Like I've been up that entire place. I've been almost in every room in that building. Second floor, we did all like broadcasting, all that stuff. So there's all the rooms, and then we went up. Me and the other dude went up into like the attic, which is like walk around attic. It's not like you got to stoop around. You could put a freaking apartment up there. But I'm like, I could put an apartment up here, live right here, and just step out and play a few holes every day before leaving. Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, it's a beautiful course. I scuffed it up pretty good.
Oh, dude, like I told you, I played the Ross with John Laskowski a few weeks back, and it literally it beat me. It felt like someone had just beat me when I left there. Those greens were just. I still haven't recovered. I really haven't. That's like, wow, it was a butt whipping.
Yeah, I had a hard time reading the greens yesterday. They were tough.
I bet it was beautiful though. What a beautiful day.
Yeah, it got a little hot, but you know that was the only complaint. Everything else was awesome.
Who were you there with?
So I went down there. So it was the French Lick Resort Charity Classic, and all the proceeds went to Riley Children's Foundation. So I was down there. Nice. Yeah, so I was down there in kind of supportive role for that, but then played with a few folks that I got connected with on a team. So
very cool.
Yeah,
very, very, very cool.
Wouldn't mind doing it a few more times here soon.
Yeah, you and me both. I actually have I've got a free round that I get to play because of one time I played there, we got rained out. So, but when you're going back there again or need to go back there and need somebody, let me know because it's hard to find somebody to play that course with.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, you want to go play the die? Are you buying? Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Thursday. Oh, getting towards the end of the week. I hope it's been a good one for you. It's certainly a good day here. Just finished up with Matt Taylor, Dustin Schutte with me. Now, Tyler Harris, Executive Director for Hoosiers for Good, joins me. Tyler, how are you, brother?
I'm doing well. Getting closer to Friday, so doing better than I was on Wednesday.
That's true. That's true. We're one day closer to parents, and one day closer to the weekend, man. Working for the weekend. Don't get seen. Usually that leads me into singing something because there's working for the. But I will spare you since we have a guest on. But if you weren't here, I would not. I would torture the guests. I mean, I would torture the listeners with that rendition. A new class came out a little earlier than expected. You guys were initially planning on doing a fall class, but a summer class came out yesterday that we saw 12 new entries, 11 IU men's basketball players, and Sydney Parrish from the women's basketball program transfer in. Big time name player, former Miss Basketball. So you guys are getting it covered on that front.
Yeah, it was certainly sooner than expected. When we initially kind of launched our first class, we thought having a spring and fall class would make sense, and really that's still the plan. Those are the classes that we've identified as the classes that we want to be really broad based in. And we thought it'd be neat to do something this summer, which we announced yesterday, and really just can't thank the kind of generous supporters for allowing us to make that happen yesterday.
Yeah, and the charities that are involved they're tied to the names. Caleb Banks and Logan Duncombe be working with the Cancer Support Communities, South Central Indiana. Jalen Hood-Shafino and Malik Raynaud, former high school teammates, working with big brothers and big sisters of Central Indiana. So it's nice they have a bond already, so that'll probably help them with that. Tamar Bates and Miller Kopp, the YMCA of Monroe County, Jordan Geronimo and CJ Gunn. Warriors for Peace. What's Warriors for Peace?
So Warriors for Peace is a smaller organization up in Indianapolis, and it was started by two parents whose son was shot and killed on his way to work, and so their mission is really similar to Stop the Violence, and in that they're trying to end gun violence, and again, they're a small organization, so hopefully this will lift them up, get more people to recognize who they are, because they have a beautiful mission.
Absolutely. Let's see, where did I leave off? Trey Galloway is Little Star ABA Therapy of Bloomington. Xavier Johnson with a kid again, and Sydney Parrish, Riley's Children's Foundation. A big proponent, Riley's Children's Foundation. I know that they've been big in there, and having Sydney Parrish. Women's basketball players are just always popular. They always seem to have great personalities. Not that the other people don't, but from what I've seen, Sydney Parrish, great. What a great representation she's going to be. Yes,
one of the best components of Sydney is how great a person she is. She's just a great person. Really cares about all the important things. One thing with Sydney is she's got an unbelievable social media platform. I think she's pretty close to 200,000 TikTok followers. She's got nearly 60,000 Instagram followers. And so she's really going to be able to raise awareness through her platform and expose everyone to all the great work Riley does.
Which is tremendous. Dustin, Riley's Children's Hospital here in Indiana. Oh my gosh, I feel bad. I can't think of her name. The director. We talked to someone from Riley's. Donna? Is it Donna? No, I'll pull it up in a minute. But yeah, they've just gotten so. That's a connection that is. It was not really known to Indiana before, but there is certainly a great connection. We know about Cook and those types of places, but there are some people that probably a lot of people didn't know that were really helping out in the backgrounds.
Yes, certainly. And Riley, they see. As I was mentioning, I was in a golf scramble yesterday where all the proceeds went to Riley. And an interesting stat that they were mentioning is Riley sees over 300,000 kids a year. They treat over 300,000 kids a year, which is just unbelievable. Wow. And so hopefully Sydney in her way with her platform will really help continue Riley in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dustin, go ahead.
I was going to say Riley Children's Hospital is one that's close to me because growing up, I went there and was treated for asthma quite frequently. And, you go in and when you're a little kid, you think this sucks. And then, when you get a little bit older and then you go in and you see that your situation isn't nearly as bad as, what a lot of those parents and children, what they have to go through. So I have a lot of appreciation. But one thing I wanted to ask Tyler was how does kind of this, and forgive my ignorance here, but how does this, how do you match the players with certain organizations? Is it a pairing, or do the players say these are the couple organizations I'd like to work with, or how does that whole process kind of work?
No, that's a good question. The first thing I look at is one, the platform each student athlete has, and then the charities platform, and see where we can pair student athletes with them to make that platform grow for the charity. I certainly asked the student athletes where their passion is. We're trying to add value, raise awareness, and while they can do that with their platform, it just makes it a lot better and easier if they're super passionate about that specific charity. So Trey Galloway, for example, he picked Little Star. He's got a really personal connection to autism through his family, and so he's super passionate. He requested that. Sydney certainly requested Riley's and wanted to do something, for the kids, and those are great. And the other student athletes, for example, for me, it was easier to pair them together with an organization for scheduling purposes, and to both of them use their platform to help kind of raise awareness for that charity. So a lot of it's via me kind of selecting with some metrics that I use, but certainly get input from student athletes and the charitable partners.
Now that we've got the summer class, will there still be a fall class?
Yeah, there will be. We haven't switched gears to thinking when that date will be, but there'll certainly be a fall class that'll be broad based, similar to our spring class. And then we application just closed on our charitable incubator program, which is, again, it's first of its kind, and it's really that process for student athletes who may not have a voice yet in the area or platform, but they are really passionate about a specific charity, and so they submit an application to us for funding, and identify projects that they're going to do to help raise awareness for that charity. And so that application just closed a couple days ago, and hopefully we'll be identifying student athletes in that process here soon.
And Tyler, a lot of this stuff is brand new to the world of the NCAA and the college athletics. And so I'm curious, is there something similar that, the Big Ten is known as a conference that likes to work together. Schools like to work together. So I'm curious to know if the Big Ten is working on something to incorporate all 14 and soon to be 16 schools, or if other schools have reached out to you within the Big Ten or maybe even outside the conference that have seen what you have done and are asking questions because they'd like to start something similar.
Yeah, as a nonprofit with 501c3 status, when we're requested to turn over, our 1023 application, for example, we have to do that. And so I've talked to probably 20 individuals that are, I would say, associated with a school loosely, like we are, associated with a school in their respective area, asking for our forms and talking them through the process. And so it would not surprise me if we see 15 to 20 organizations similar to ours, pop up around the country here soon.
Yeah, big differences. I mean, it makes a gigantic difference because you look at Indiana, and now 12 of 13 scholarship players have an NIL deal with Hoosiers for Good. I'd say that all 13 probably have NIL deals of some sort. Who's the scholarship player that's not under a deal yet?
Anthony Leal. He's the one, and really out of respect for him. You keep the comments short. We certainly approached him, but there just wasn't enough interest on the sides to make it happen.
Okay, and I was just curious who it was, but but the point it shows is their opportunities are there for the entire team if you want it to be. And that says a lot to incoming recruits, incoming potential student athletes. Not calling other schools out, but to make an example, you look at Purdue, they don't have that. They're way behind, and it makes a difference. Now, we saw a player decommit yesterday from there. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Not suggesting that it did, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised to see that when you've got schools that are just way behind. Now, eventually they'll probably catch up, but not to the same level. And you guys have done an outstanding job on jumping on it quickly and getting out front. And because there's probably a big learning curve too.
Yeah, no, that's certainly all very, very true. And the one thing I always like to remind people is, we're only 4.5 months old. We're still new. We're still getting our feet wet. And I think as we continue to get a handle on kind of all the nuances in this space. It's only going to be better. It's going to benefit student athletes even more, our charitable partners even more. And so it's certainly exciting. And you know, the one thing that I love about, you know, Hoosiers for Good, it really caters to any preference. You know, a donor could absolutely hate NIL. But through Hoosiers for Good, it's certainly a palatable way to support NIL because you're exposing these young people to just really important things, and allowing them to use their platform to really raise awareness for those important causes. And so it's certainly a palatable way for certain donors to support NIL, but also just a great way to do it, which is why I think we've seen so many, or I've talked to so many individuals that want to, you know, set up similar organizations.
Tyler, we've talked a lot about players wanting to get involved in this and what their passions are. I'm curious to know what your passion is and how you got started in this, because obviously you care a lot about this to be, you know, heading this up.
Yeah, so I was the head of the compliance office in the athletic department, you know, 5 months ago. And Fred,
that's why IU got it. That's why IU got in no trouble, because of Tyler.
Or just great people like you guys who do just the right things, right? And so, you know, 5 months ago I was at IU. Fred had reached out. You know, there was, you know, with setting this up in a charitable fashion, there's certainly an important component of making sure you're always doing things the right way. And you can do things the right way in this environment and still be really successful. But Fred called and, you know, it was certainly something for me. I had a great job at IU, really loved my time there. But for me, I wanted to be able to make an impact on young people. And I thought of no better way to do that. So just really fit me where I wanted to go professionally and in my personal interests. And I was so gracious to IU. I gave a 3 days notice. So thankfully Fred smoothed that over though.
Yeah, I'm sure that was not a problem. Talk about the difficulties. You mentioned you guys go so far out of your way to make sure that you align these student athletes with charities, doing great things. There are other NIL opportunities for those guys that you have nothing to do with. Talk about the difficulties of those players managing the different ones, because there's a juggling act they have to do.
Yeah, you know, they're full-time students, they're full-time athletes, and now, you know, they're managing their brand, their NIL full-time. And it's certainly a lot to deal with. You know, we request a lot out of them. I'm not going to shy away from saying that. You know, it's probably more work than any other NIL thing they're going to have to do. But that's intentional, right? We want to create a meaningful experience. We're giving great opportunities, but at the end of the day, we want to create a really meaningful experience. And hopefully, when some of these athletes go, or when these athletes go, whether it's onto the NFL, NBA, to just the professional world, they had such a great experience here that they'll want to serve on the board or still be around that organization that they partnered with. And so. The way we deal with it is I try to get out in front of it as much as possible and give them dates to appear at things. And, you know, once they figure out their schedule, then we can lock those in. It's certainly a juggling act because we're not the only NIL opportunity for them. But we try to manage it as best as possible. That's why we make a lot of these year long, to give just a lot of flexibility to fit within their schedule.
And I think one of the, you know, a lot of people, as you mentioned, not everybody is quite on board with NIL just yet. It's still so new and everything. But one of the things I think gets lost with the NIL conversation, everybody wants to say, well, this player's getting $500,000 in a car, XYZ. But you guys are providing real life experiences. And I think that's the positive side of NIL, and not just for you, but, you know, if there's somebody that's in engineering and, you know, they can do an internship with a company now, or they can, if they're a performing artist, they might be able to perform at a concert or something along those lines. So I think that what you guys are doing it's not just great for these organizations, but it's also providing real life experiences and opportunities for so many student athletes as well.
Yeah, we're exposing them to things that they've never been exposed to. To things I certainly have never been exposed to, and
Right.
and that's just been a great experience, and seeing them and exposed to those things, and just how much it changes their perception on life. We're really trying to enhance that student athlete experience at IU through Hoosiers for Good, to really give them opportunities to be aware of these things that are going on out there, and use their NIL to support those causes, to help whether it be children, those with autism, etc.
That's incredible that they get to do that. Are you guys all completely corporate driven? Are there any private individuals? Because I know that you deal with so many corporations, like we've mentioned Cook and Riley's, and there's so many more. I don't want to leave anybody out, but are you simply corporate driven?
In terms of our donor base?
Yeah.
So, we look at businesses who really are supportive of our mission and want to make a charitable donation. But we also go to individuals too, who really supportive and want would like to support NIL in this way, and make a charitable donation. And so we really cater to everyone. And again, I just can't thank the kind of supporters enough to allow us to make this class happen in the summer.
I was just curious, because I was going to. The next question is that why, in like the individuals, why should an individual go to you guys versus some of the independent, some independent person who wants to do it?
My message, to that, and to donors who have asked is, yes, you're supporting NIL in a big way, but you're also exposing these young people to really important things. And that seems like the Hoosier way of doing things is we're gonna do NIL at a high level, but in the process, we're gonna expose young people to really important things to make our student athletes better at IU, better people for when they leave IU. We're creating great citizens coming out of IU. And so it's just this way to support NIL at a high level, but the additional nugget is they're using NIL to support really important causes.
Well, it is great because obviously it's a very low percentage that go on to be professionals in sports, but we always see that those professional athletes hopefully are involved in their communities. But no matter what these student athletes do when they go forward in their life, hopefully this gives them the impetus to continue to do work like this, which would be incredible.
Yeah, I agree. And our student athletes at IU are unbelievable. I think, for the most part, we've got a great student athlete population. I've got several texts after our announcement yesterday from student athletes saying, when can I do an event and get in front of the kids and talk to the kids? Things like that. They're just so enthusiastic about helping. And that makes it a lot easier when they're passionate about doing this.
I sent you a text. I want you to look at that. But also, Calbert Cheney, I know he's the VP on there. What's his role? What has he done? How has he helped? And what does he do with you guys?
So Calbert is our vice chair of our board of directors, and he's super engaged. Calbert has introduced me to charities, been really thoughtful, and introducing me to individuals who would support businesses, who would support. I can't speak more highly of him. Obviously, we all know him from being a great basketball player and a coach. He's truly one of those individuals that is better person. I mean, he really cares about doing this. He wants IU to be very successful in this. And so I can't thank him enough. He's super engaged board member, and that's what I love about it.
I would be remiss if I didn't. We look at the newest class, of course, all 12 of them basketball players, 11 of them men's basketball players. But I think, and I agree, it looks like to me that Indiana is getting their most prominent program trying to get it underway and get that ship heading in the right direction, and then letting the others follow in behind with I'm assuming a bigger focus on other programs will come from behind this class.
Yeah, we certainly want to be broad-based and give many opportunities. And I think our spring and fall class will do that. But, there's individuals out there that want to support specific sports, whether it be, field hockey, whether it be, women's soccer, men's soccer, I can go down the list. And
football's a big one that comes out.
Yeah. Football, there's certain individuals that want to support those sports. And so if we get individuals donations that are earmarked to those sports, we're going to use them for those specific sports. And so we'll have more of that in the fall because we have got some of that support, and hopefully we'll continue to do so. But we certainly would not want to exclude or give the opportunity for donors to whether it be a former student athlete from a specific sport to be able to give and help that sport out.
Well, and you mentioned the individual. Are there corporate donors? Are they earmarking where they would like for it to go, or do they just make the donation and allow you guys to make that determination?
Yeah, it's generally that. Donating and allowing us to continue to provide just awesome opportunities to really individuals who can raise awareness for charities. And again, we look at social media as a big driver for that. And so that's what's awesome about this class is all these student athletes have great social media numbers and followings. And so, but yeah, I got off on a tangent there, but when we do receive donations from businesses, it's mostly just, use it to add value to charities.
Talking with Tyler Harris from Hoosiers for Good, executive director for the NIL Collective. It is Indiana basketball is probably benefited. I don't know if I can say number one because I'd have to do a lot of research, but boy, they have to be in the top 5 of programs that have benefited from the way the NIL Collective has been put together in a good way, not like the situation we see in Miami with John Ruiz doling out $400,000 to a single player and making all that noise. This has been businesslike. It has been consistent, but I think that these kids have to see that. And then you have them talking. They're talking to recruits. So that's an ancillary benefit. I know that's not your goal and that's not your job, but that ancillary benefit is there, and it's good for IU. It's good for all the IU sports that are involved, but just you guys are way ahead of the curve.
Yeah, that's super exciting. I do feel like we're probably the best, if not the best, kind of collective out there. We're providing great opportunities in a good way. And as these organizations who are following what we are doing pop up, we got to maintain that gold standard that we set. We were the first organization to receive 501c3 status in this space, and so we want to be able to continue to have that gold standard.
Yeah, because and talk about the benefits of that and how much that differs from not being a 503c. Yeah,
certainly it helps for donations, right? Since they're tax deductible. The negatives is we can't venture outside of really charitable endeavors, which is fine. But if there's student athletes that want to engage in commercial opportunities, that's not through us at Hoosiers for Good. But I still think the biggest benefit over anything is the ability to expose young people to just great causes. I think we're already seeing. I've seen some football players who just have changed their perspective on a lot of things just through a couple appearances with their organization, and learned so much. And that's more than anything. That's the most rewarding thing that I get to do.
Now, do the individuals know what the other people are getting?
Not from us anyways.
Okay.
Student athletes probably certainly talk, but not from us.
Yeah, because there's been all that talk, which I don't agree with, that there would be problems because there's like, well, this guy's. I'm like, dude, that's life. That is just life. That's like a job. When you go to your next job, guess what? There's going to be people that you make more money than, and there's going to be people that you make a lot less than. That's just how it is. So I've never understood that argument that was going to be a problem. I'm like, dude, that's get over it. So I've never gotten that.
Yeah, that's the professional world that all of us live in, that they'll soon live in, and on top of that, that's NIL. And that's just how NIL is supposed to work. It's your name, image, and likeness, and the value you can bring with that. But I do think the student athletes will need to grow up and learn that this is the professional world and this is how it works. And I haven't heard of any problems thus far.
And actually, how this should go great lengths in helping mature them, which hopefully helps them on their athletic endeavors. But absolutely, you hope that helps them in life. But being involved with these charities and seeing all these other things that are going on, which most people don't get to see, especially when you're in college, you're not exposed to that.
Yeah, that's certainly true, and we felt at the very beginning that was a missing piece in NIL. The student athletes' time as it becomes booked up through academics, athletics, and NIL, the charitable component and student athletes getting out to charities was going to suffer. And so, we wanted to create an organization where that component was not lost, because we certainly see that as one of the most important components of all of this.
And I know we talked about it briefly a second ago, and you kind of answered it in as far as if people want to go that direction. But football, IU football, obviously, football is at most schools, that is the engine that drives the train. That is not the case at Indiana, but it is the case in college sports. Will there be an effort to try to bring some balance later on with that? Because obviously Indiana football is historically a program that has not been good on its own merit. So they can obviously use any help that they could get, but we know they're not going to compete with Ohio State when you've got Ryan Day saying that they need $13 million a year to compete. We know that's not happening, but we know something has to happen to kind of keep them in that realm.
No, that's certainly true. And, unfortunately it's really contingent on the support, right? And if we're able to get a lot of support, we'll make sure it's done at a high level, and we've had 6 Hoosiers for Good athletes from football that was in our spring class. We'll certainly have more in the fall. But we want to provide big opportunities to that sport. And hopefully we'll be able to do so, but it really is contingent on the support that we get to be able to do that.
Well, that's pretty much what Ryan Day said. I mean, so answers that. What's up next for you guys now? What do you do? Where do you go back to? What do you do now that this class has been released? What happens next?
Well, I really turn my we've got 25 student athletes now, and as Hoosiers for Good athletes, and I'd mentioned charitable incubator program, hopefully will happen here soon, and we'll have some more athletes. So really what I do is making sure student athletes are committing to appearances, putting out social media posts, making sure they're living up to the obligations to really get that meaningful experience. That takes a lot of time with 25 student athletes, but certainly enjoy doing that. So I would say that's going to be my next task. But then also, you're always fundraising, always trying to talk to people and getting them to support what we're doing, to be able to continue providing these opportunities to young people.
Yeah, that you've got 25 now, and I know some will leave and more will be added. Is there an optimum number that you think that you're planning on heading towards, that you think that, hey, this is the most that we'd want to have because of management or whatever? Obviously Trace Jackson Davis, Race Thompson, Xavier will be leaving. That may be all out of those group. But there's others that are probably that were already announced that are leaving that will be replaced, obviously. But do you continue to grow bigger than that, or what is the number?
I think the number we're shooting for our first year, which, it wouldn't be a first full year, but by December 31, around 40 to 45 student athletes in total, maybe a few more in year one. And then hopefully as we continue to grow Hoosiers for Good, that number grows with it.
And then now that becomes more and more of a job, because you have to start managing. If you get that up to say 75, that's a lot of, you're going to have to hire a person or two just for management to get them going. Hey, you got to go here. I got to go here, and all that business. But that'll become a business in and of itself.
Oh, it's certainly busy because you're managing their schedules, trying to get them to do commit and make appearances, put out social media posts. You're also trying to fundraise. So you got a lot of balls moving at the same time. And so hopefully that's a good problem to have. Hopefully we get to that problem because that's a great problem to have, and it shows that this is working.
Well, man, I cannot thank you enough as always, Tyler. So appreciate you so much. Hope to see you again soon. And we look forward to chatting whenever you got something new coming out, man. Let me know.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'll hit the golf course here soon.
Absolutely. My game is awful as always, so I'll bring the terrible game.
Hey, you get your money's worth, right? The more you hit the ball, the more you get your money's worth.
I visit the entire course, baby. Tyler Harris from Hoosiers for Good, the executive director. Thank you so much, brother.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
You betcha. Tyler Harris joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from the WOW Club and Metalworks Brewing Company, located right on the square. Make sure you stop by off of 6th Street and have a tip one up and maybe watch a game. All part of the WOW Club. Make sure you go to the Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and join. Support them as they are an IU Athletics supporter and one of Indiana Sports Beat. Coming up next, Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers. Right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda. Don't mention it either, Tyler, because people on YouTube can hear us. But
yeah,
if you were,
I'll connect you guys.
Okay, I just didn't know. Well, I've got his information, but I didn't. Okay. I didn't know. I didn't want to mention it because I knew it was still. I didn't know if it was good to go or whatever.
Yeah, maybe we can next week me and him grab dinner and catch up, and we'll talk through it all.
That would be great.
Cool.
I love Chris Denari by chance?
I do not know.
Chris Denari, Tyler Harris.
Hey, Tyler.
Chris Denari, the voice of the Pacers. Tyler Harris, executive director for Hoosiers for Good, Indiana's NIL arm, former head of compliance for IU.
Oh,
Yeah,
hey,
nice
Tyler.
to meet you, Chris.
Hey, nice to meet you. I did a little help just connecting people on the Butler NIL. It's all good dogs.
Yeah.
All good dogs. Oh, my God.
All good dogs. Rick Donovan.
Good.
Rick Donovan.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, Rick Donovan was Thad Mata's teammate the first year I was the voice of Butler, 89-90. He's an attorney up in Fort Wayne, so he's involved in that. And I just hooked him up with somebody in PR that's helped him. So, it's amazing. I worked in college athletics for 10 years, 89 to 99 at Butler. Unbelievable what's happening now.
Why didn't you
It's certainly changed. From even when I was there, let's say 3 years ago, it certainly changed 2 years ago. But yeah, it's interesting to see how this landscape evolves.
Yeah.
I actually talked to Mark. He was one of my early contacts who's running all good dogs.
Oh, McFatridge, Mark McFatridge, right? Yeah,
yeah, and helped connect them with a charitable organization and sent them some stuff on Hoosiers for Good. So I'm glad to see that
that's great.
they've got theirs up and running.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. What you guys and everybody's doing. It's about time, that some of this happens. So it's great.
Yeah, it's certainly an awesome way to engage in this space.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely look forward, man, next week. Or if you have time to play golf, either way, man, let me know, or we can sneak in a quick 9.
Yeah.
I'd over to Bloomington Country Club, maybe.
Yeah, I'd be down for some golf next week. So I'll get with him. Maybe I'll just shoot a text to both of you, and we'll get a time set.
Perfect, my man. I appreciate you. Have a great day and a great rest of your weekend.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Tyler.
Thanks,
Great
Tyler.
to meet you.
All right. With that being said, we're coming back from break.
Decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point here on this Thursday. Chris Denari joining us, Justin Schutte on this Thursday, like I said. Chris, how are you, sir? Is growing a little beard? I thought I saw it. I was like, man, I went and saw my daughter last night before she leaves for, well, I'm going to be helping my guess, moves back down to Ole Miss next weekend. So I shaved because she can't stand that bearded face. So for the first time in like 2 weeks, I shaved, even though I kept it to trim. But you see, you got it going on there, man.
Yeah, I shaved last weekend, one of the days for the races at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And then I said, hey, I'm on radio, and then I just haven't shaved all week. So my grandson yesterday was pulling at this gray and white beard. But no, I've always said you get a better shave, right? You let it grow out a little bit and then you get a better shave. So
the best shave of your life, I can guarantee you.
Yeah, I know my wife is not a huge fan of it. So
no, I can guarantee you where you can get the best shave you've ever had in your life. Have you ever gone into a steam room and shaved in a steam room?
I have not, but I think you're right. That would be just moisten the skin, right?
It's crazy. I used to go to one of the YMCAs where I was at the time as a member, and that was the thing. Half the people in there, they'd go in there and sit in the steam room forever, but also shave because it opens up the pores. You use nothing. You just take the razor in and you straight raw shave, and it is the smoothest, most unbelievable shave you've ever had in your life. You come out of there like you've never had a whisker.
What do you think, Dustin?
I'm telling you, it's nuts. It blows your mind. No shaving cream. You just use the sweat, and because how it's opens up, it's mind-boggling.
I'm not going into any steam room or any sauna with a bunch of men's hair all over the ground on any bench.
It's not on the ground. You put it on your towel, man.
I'm not even a germaphobe, but that sounds not fun to me.
You use your own towel. You just kind of tap it out. It's not when you're not going in there with a Abe Lincoln beard either.
I'm glad to see though, Chris, you survived the descent from your perch in turn 2.
You know what? We didn't get a picture.
Didn't get a picture.
I know somehow. Let's see.
Surely you took one.
Yeah, I mean, can I hold?
You can hold it up or text it to John. Either way.
I don't know if this will work, but
if not, we'll have you text it to John. He'll put it up. But I'm gonna have you text it to John.
All right.
And but what'd you think about the race?
The first day, the race, the Xfinity race and the IndyCar race, the leader got out, and unless you have a restart, it wasn't all that exciting. It wasn't bad. I thought on Sunday for the Cup race, the restarts helped make it interesting. Because
interesting is a word that could probably be changed out with a lot of different words, I'd say.
But I think the one thing on the road course, I like that there are opportunities to pass. There were some opportunities in front of me in turns 10 and 11, leading to 12, which is the short chute on the south side, so on the oval. But I think what happened, it was interesting. They had 4 spins trying to go into turn 1 very early. It resulted in no yellows. I mean, that's sort of the beauty of the road course is you can have local yellows, and then when those cars are able to refire, it doesn't create a yellow like it would on the oval. So you had some of those issues early. But I thought for the most part, the racing was pretty good, especially on Sunday late in those final 30 to 40 laps.
Now, some of those drivers, Chris, after the race, some of the older drivers, you had Denny Hamlin, I think, Brad Keselowski, maybe Kevin Harvick. Some of those guys took to social media and basically said, bring back the oval. I know that NASCAR's made a bigger push to have some of these road courses to kind of get away from it's just a bunch of left turns stigma. Do you think that Indianapolis should return to that oval, or do you enjoy the road course? Because it seems to get mixed reviews.
Yeah, I think what's going to be interesting is they talk about the next generation car, and I don't really want to go into detail about it because I don't know all that much about it. But I have heard that, from people that I know, people on the Performance Racing Network that I talked to over the weekend, that they feel that this car will be more adaptable to a flatter track or the oval at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway than the older car would be. Roger Penske addressed the media over the weekend and said next year in 2023, they will be back on the road course, but he sees the opportunity for the Cup cars to be back on the oval. Now, what they could do is they could go alternate years, odd years on the road course, even years on the oval, and break it up like that. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, the problem is the old Cup car just didn't align itself very well with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway because it's not high banked. It's not a short track. But to your point, Dustin, I do think NASCAR, especially on the Cup side, they've had some good success with those road courses this year. With COTA, they go to Watkins Glen. They're racing at Road America. So I think you're right. They added the dirt race at Bristol. They're trying to give these drivers more opportunities to do different things each week, so it's not the same cookie cutter race each and every week.
I want to talk about the restarts. They were interesting and it was fun for a minute, but then it became absolute stupidity.
Chaos. Yeah,
it becomes stupidity when you see them fanning out. At one point, I think they counted 7 wide, which is fine, except for that's too wide. There's only 2 cars going through there by the time you get there.
Yeah,
and they just went plowing into it. And the couple of drivers talked about it, said, hey, it just comes down to a complete lack of respect by some of these drivers now of how they drive, which I agree. And then the deal with Ross Chastain, he seems to always be involved in something, which you got to love, but he got penalized, but really shouldn't have been, because they had done that in the Xfinity race. They had done it in other races with the runoff deal, and there was never a penalty. But they penalized him. And that's another thing. NASCAR, it's like, they kind of make up the rules as they go along sometimes.
Well, it was interesting, and that happened on the clear other end of the track. So I saw it on a replay situation. I had to be alert because I pay attention. I have a big screen in front of me, so I watch the restart. I'm listening. In this case, it was Pat Patterson. He had turns 1 through 5, 1 through 6, and then Nick Yeoman has them on Holman Boulevard into the S's. So I've got to pay attention to those guys and listen to them, who's in the lead. And then all of a sudden, Ross Chastain, who I knew had gone off the track, all of a sudden he's in the lead or he's in second, with Tyler Reddick. And that you're trying to process this to know what's going to happen. I think it was good for NASCAR from the standpoint that Tyler Reddick ended up winning, that Ross Chastain didn't win, because that would have thrown a whole nother bit of craziness into it. They had already gone the week before where Denny Hamlin was disqualified. In fact, number 1 and number 2 was disqualified, and then Chase Elliott was declared the winner. So would have been really difficult to declare a new winner 2 weeks in a row. But that's the thing with the road courses and the runoffs and those types of things. If you get knocked off the track, your only option is to go through the grass. Now, I guess they felt that Chastain took a shortcut. I think that's why they added the 30 seconds to his time, and he went from 2nd to 27th. But that's a call, I guess, that they have to make at the time. But
they didn't. But the day before,
there were other drivers on lap 32 that did the same thing, and there was no penalty. So I guess you could say it's something like a basketball game or a football game. Do you make the same call in the first quarter that you make in the fourth quarter? I mean, those are, I guess, obvious questions that you would ask.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, except for that became just sheer craziness, because Chase Briscoe, kind of got screwed out of that deal last year where he got forced into the grass, which, I mean, he was forced into the grass. There's no place else for him to go. What's he supposed to do? And they end up penalizing him. It's like somebody knocking you. It's like being on a basketball court and you having the ball dribbling up the court and a guy just coming up and pushing you out of bounds, and they call you for out of bounds. You're like, wait a minute, what the hell?
Well, I mean, that's where it becomes subjective, right? I mean, to your point, I mean, how many times in a basketball game does an official miss a call that you disagree with because it happened against your team? And I guess that's the situation in this. Somebody's not going to like the call that NASCAR made, and that's how it happened.
I want to shift quickly from the NASCAR side to the Pacers, and unfortunately, this is forceful news on my end because I ruined one of my favorite Pacers shirts by sticking an ink pen in my shorts and not taking it out and ruining my favorite shirt. So that's a catastrophe in itself. But the real news was Dwayne Washington. I know, Chris, you wanted to see him back. I wanted to see him back because I thought he flourished last season, but he signs a deal with the Phoenix Suns. But I think he's a player that I think can have a long NBA career, maybe not as a starter or maybe as a prominent player, but as a role player, just about with any organization in the NBA. I was sad to see him go.
Yeah, I'm disappointed, on a personal level. I really like Dwayne a lot. Got to know him a little bit this year. His rookie season, he played for Chris Holtman at Ohio State. And, he got caught up in the move that the Pacers were trying to make to get DeAndre Ayton. They had to clear cap space. They had to clear some salaries. And then in the trade that they made with Malcolm Brogdon going to Boston, they really like Nesmith, the young man out of Vanderbilt. And so he becomes another wing that you throw into the mix. And so I think where they were from a contract standpoint, they might have offered Dwayne a two-way. I mean, he had been converted from a two-way to a regular contract and then waived. So, yeah, just on a personal level, I'm disappointed just because I really like Dwayne. And, that's the one thing, Dustin, about the league that, I've been around it now for 16 years is you still maintain a friendship with a lot of these guys, no matter where they go. I mean, I go back to the day, I think I've said on this program, George Hill's been one of my favorite guys that I've dealt with over the years with the Pacers. And every time I see him, no matter what uniform he's wearing, we slap hands or hug or whatever, just because of the relationship we built all those years. And so while you're disappointed on a personal level, you understand what the front office is trying to do, but wish Dwayne nothing but success in his journey now in Phoenix.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm also excited because I think his skill set, the Pacers have enough of the players around to make up for what they're going to lose with him. So I think it's sad to see him go, but I think that both sides, it's one of those things where it's bittersweet, but I think both sides will be just fine in this deal.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And he's a guy with a lot of talent. He had a disappointing summer league in Vegas. If you look at some of the numbers and those types of things, and then he didn't get to play in the final games in Vegas with the Pacers because that's when they were attempting to make that, make the deal with DeAndre Ayton in restricted free agency. So, that's some of the news that happens this time of year. I mean, to your point, it's August the 4th. This is probably the quietest time in the NBA. Because you come off of the draft in late June, free agency around the 1st of July, and then the first 2 weeks of July, you have summer league. Camps will open at the end of September, preseason in October. The regular season will start in mid-October. So this is sort of the time of year, if you can, where coaches and players and front office people try to get away. Now, let's look at the landscape of the NBA. I mean, you still have the whole Kevin Durant saga to develop, Donovan Mitchell. So you have a lot of things that are still out there. And the one thing that I thought about this today, guys, this could really hold up the announcement of the NBA schedule for 22-23, because a lot of it's predicated on television, right? Where's Donovan Mitchell going to be? Who's going to be on the Utah Jazz? Are the Utah Jazz going from one of the top 5 teams to one of the bottom 10 teams? Well, if that's the case, then they're not going to have a lot of TNT or ESPN. So this, I'm sure the NBA is looking at this, even though it's a very quiet time right now, it really affects how they work and release that schedule and, where the TV opportunities are.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people just want to be able to see the Pacers on TV.
I think what's going to happen, though, I mean, and again, we'll wait and see. We have no new announcement, but I can say this on the Bally Sports situation. They have released an app that, I mean, they have the app, but they're doing it with baseball, where you don't have to have YouTube, a cable package, or whatever. You can just subscribe to the app to get the game. So
basically streaming it.
Yeah, basically it's an over-the-top streaming situation that, down the road.
I can't believe they have let this drag out this long. It is utterly mind-boggling. They have to be losing the amount of money being lost. How are you going to make that up?
The cable bundle is still, even though people are cord cutting or streaming. I mean, I have tons of streaming packages, but I still have a cable package. I still have AT&T Uverse, but it's still the overwhelming number of people still have access to cable. But to your point, and that's why these companies, these RSNs, are creating an opportunity where they can just have an app that you don't have to have YouTube, you don't have to have Sling, you don't have to have Hulu, you don't have to have Xfinity. You can just get the app. Now that's what you're going to see, I think, down the road with ESPN. I mean, they're talking about that as well. So, I mean, we're just at the outset of what's going to happen here in the next few years in regards to how you're going to watch your favorite team.
Oh, if people don't understand radical change is coming, they better look at college athletics, because that kind of change is coming to consumable television and sports and conferences and all these new it's all changing, and we have no idea where it's going because the change is still happening. It's kind of hard, like the Big Ten. How the hell are they going to come up with a media rights deal when you've got UCLA and USC coming in, because their media rights deal was done mostly before that happened. Now you've got to redo that. And then if you have somebody else, it's just constant change, but all good stuff. What's up next for you, my friend?
Just, waiting on the release of the schedule. That'll be hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And then that will give us an idea, you sort of build your timeline for the year. So that should be at some point. Usually it's the second to third week in August. But like I said, because of some of these big names that have not found a home yet, if they are going to find a different home, and there's no guarantee, I think that could hold up the schedule a little bit.
John's got the your photo from the 200.
And that doesn't even show it from the
that's from the ground, yeah.
But I mean the ground is well below that.
Where
you've got
were
to
you
climb a ladder to get up there.
Physically, where are you? Say like turn one, not the road course turns. I
was in the middle of turn 2 on the oval.
Turns 1 and 2.
I was in turn 2.
Oh, right on turn 2.
I was beyond the short shoot on the south end. Yeah.
Is that one of the passing areas?
There was you could pass a little bit. Yeah, you could pass. I'll tell you where they would pass. They would pass as they got up to speed, and they would hit the brakes in turn 12 in the short shoot. And if you took that turn, if you went out to the wall, somebody was going to cut in front of you and dive inside of you. So there was some passing there. Yeah.
Did you like it? Did you enjoy that race, or is it hard for you? For me, like if I was doing play-by-play on a basketball game, I may have enjoyed that broadcast, but I don't know if I could really say I enjoyed that game because I'm so focused on what is happening. Well, the basketball game is different because there's highs and lows.
I mean, the one thing, the difference in doing a basketball game is you have everything in front of you the whole time. You know, college game 40 minutes, NBA game 48 minutes. You're responsible for the whole thing. In a race, you're not. I mean, I only have a couple of turns to call. So there are parts of the race that you're not calling that you can't enjoy the race. You can watch. If the booth is talking about stuff and they're not going out to the turn people, then you can just watch the race because you're not responsible to call it.
Really quick, I wanted to ask Chris, because we've been talking the last couple of days. Obviously, the sad news that Vin Scully passed. But one of the questions I saw because of him is what were some of your all-time favorite calls? And I was curious to know if you had one that either you had that's a favorite or that you heard growing up that's a favorite, because the one that always sticks to me is that Mark Boyle, and the Indiana Pacers at the New York Knicks, ring the bell, baby, ding dong, the witch is dead. Yeah. That's one that I always go back to. I probably listen to it 3 or 4 times a year just because it gives me goosebumps every time. So I was just curious if you had a favorite or whether that was something you said or somebody else.
No question what Mark said back then. That's an all-timer. I remember, and I think they played it last night on ESPN, the 88 World Series game when Kirk Gibson hit the home run. That was an awesome call. I grew up a Reds fan, so a lot of Marty Brennaman. I mean, for me, it was at the end of a game. If the Reds won, this one belongs to the Reds. I mean, that was just something that he
the old left-hander rounding third and heading for home.
And he said that a lot back in the day because they won a lot. So I mean, there's so many great broadcasters, and each of them have their own sort of signature call. It's but clearly Vin Scully, the one when Kirk Gibson hit the home run and he's just sort of limping around the bases, that was pretty good.
Well, and part of the reason we talk about why it was so good, and we talked about this yesterday with a couple people, if you listen to it, he calls it, and about the time he hits first base, he just lets go of it.
Yeah.
And then for the next maybe 60 seconds, all you hear is the roar of the crowd for a solid minute, which a minute that's a lot of dead, what we call dead air time, although it wasn't dead air with the crowd noise, but that was perfect. He did that on his own.
Yeah.
And that was,
I would give you another one, and it's not baseball related, but it's Jim Nance at the Masters when Tiger won, and he just laid out as Tiger was walking off the green and hugging his family and his daughter and his son and his mom. Sometimes the best broadcast as a play-by-play person is to say nothing. Let the moment tell the story. And I think Vin Scully did a great job in that so many times.
We appreciate you, Chris Denari. Look forward to talking to you again next week, buddy. I hope you have a great weekend, and hopefully that beard looks like David Letterman next time we see you.
All right. See you, Jim. See you, Dustin. See you, John. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers joining us. Let's take a quick break, brought to you by our good friends from Feast Market and Cellar, part of the WOW Club. Make sure you go to your Apple App Store or Google Play Store and join the WOW Club today. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar, located right next door to Patterson, or on Patterson and Rogers, next to Southern Stone, offering an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff. That is uber important because the sommelier is an expert that is not just easy to come by. They take their pairing seriously. We're back to close it out with Dustin Schutte right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington,
you're going to talk about that beer thing.
Yeah.
I can't think of what that's called. The reason I asked is because I still need one more thing for the show thumbnail, and these long segments make it hard to find the variety sometimes.
Beer thing.
He wanted at the beginning of the show, he mentioned a brewery or something.
Bourbon thing.
Oh, I haven't watched it yet, but yeah, we can talk about it.
Or what is that Pacers question you asked him about?
What?
I just caught the you asked him something about the Pacers right in the middle of all the NASCAR talk.
Oh, Dwayne Washington signed a 2-way contract with the Phoenix Suns. And it was either a week or two ago, both Chris and I talked about wanting him back on the Pacers for this upcoming season because of what he did basically when the whole team was hurt.
Gotcha. I'll use that instead then.
Holy crap.
Which Dwayne? There's like 50 Dwayne Washingtons. Is Dwayne Washington Jr.?
Duane Washington Jr., yes.
Gotcha. Man,
Duane.
Somebody else. Because there's a Dwayne Washington that died in 2016. I was like, that's not who he's talking about.
Nope.
Dragonlance. No idea.
I think there's a side conversation happening over here.
That happens quite a bit.
Well, there's generally 2 or 3 of them. That's good. Oh, yeah. Hey, yeah, I forgot about this.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a joke. Now, if this was you or me over there, we're effed.
Correct.
Because let me tell you, who they're trading a Russian prisoner that they have that had to do with war crimes or selling arms or something.
Yes.
So they're trading a dude that was selling arms for a chick that had a vape cartridge.
Now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Oh, welcome back to the smooth sounds of Dustin Schutte. and his band, the Schuttettes.
That's right, baby.
Jim Coyle with you here, as always. Hope you're having a great Thursday, as we have. Matt Taylor has joined us from the Colts. Tyler Harris, Hoosiers for Good, NIL platform for the IU, and Chris Denari. And, yeah, there's a big difference between Hoosiers for Good and any other NIL thing that you'll see out there. Trust me. It's the major leagues and single A baseball difference.
Right.
But, interesting to see them go all in on basketball.
Well, I think they know, especially in Indiana, that's going to be their broadest reach, and then those are going to be the most popular. And I think the other aspect of it too is, and obviously we've talked about football drives the train no matter what school it is. I know it's not the most popular in Indiana, but the reason Indiana is able to build these new facilities and all that stuff is because of the Big Ten money, the football money, all that good stuff. But also basketball players, they're not under a helmet. They're more recognizable, and that goes for any school or for most schools. I mean, unless you're the star quarterback or one of the star players, you're wearing a helmet, you're in shoulder pads. Whereas obviously basketball, it's easier to identify faces and put a player with a school. So I think that's another big reason. But it's really cool to see they've got so many student athletes involved. Yes, a lot of them are basketball. It seems like they're going to incorporate a lot more, but really appreciate Tyler coming on and telling us, it really benefits all parties. It benefits Indiana University. It benefits student athletes. It benefits the charities and the people involved with those charities. It's just really, that's when we talk about NIL, we don't talk about that kind of stuff enough.
Chris is asking, have you done anything on how the forest fires affecting some of the trails before, right after, and then a couple years later?
I have not personally, but I know that we have covered that stuff. I will. I'll look. I can send probably Chris maybe some links. I don't know if we've gone that detailed yet, but I'm sure we've got some stuff up there. Yeah, at outsider.com.
And then Tebow points out there are only 2 Big Ten basketball teams in the 2022 top 25. IU is number 15. Illinois is number 25, which that means nothing really. It could be accurate. It could be not accurate because the people that are voting on that know the least about Indiana. First of all, those are national people that are not around. They know what they are reading, which I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not sure that there's only 2 teams from the Big Ten that are going to be top 25. Michigan's probably going to be a little bit better than that. And Illinois is probably a lot better than just 25. They loaded up. Michigan State, man, they've been signing recruits, which I know this is for next year, but they've been Xavier Booker. They landed a 4-star at least. They've been bringing Michigan State's been hammering the recruiting, brother. They're not going away. Tom Izzo's not going anywhere. He's still bringing in a great recruiting class next year.
Well, he said in previous interviews, I don't know if it's been just getting to the tournament or if it's when he's been to the Final Four, but he said that, I want that second championship because it kind of validates it, right? He won one a long time ago, and they've been close. They've gotten to a lot of Final Fours. His legacy as a college basketball coach is secure, but I think he wants that second national championship to prove to himself, to prove to everybody, look, 2000 wasn't a fluke. We've been a great program, and he wants to validate it. So he's going out and as his career winds down, don't know when he's going to call it a career, but he's in the latter stages of it, and he wants to get that badly. So he and his staff are out recruiting really hard.
Well, absolutely. I mean, he just doesn't quit. And Michigan State has been a constant the entire time, and they're not going to not be. So that's another reason why you can't count them out. They weren't last year. They were not what they normally are, but man, their recruiting is looking pretty strong. So they're not going away. Ross we talked about this yesterday, but he says he saw, I didn't know this. He says, talking about Kentucky scheduling a home and home with Gonzaga. He says, but as expected, it is not at Gonzaga's gym. Which,
really?
How is that a home and home? Where are they playing that game? I have to pull that up. Exactly, Chris. I agree. Early rankings before anybody plays the first game means nothing. But where is Kentucky and Gonzaga playing?
Look it up right now. I'm trying to see if I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not either. It's just
I don't know if I can read it fast enough.
Hey, I'm trying to. He wants to schedule a game, but everything's got to be on his terms. Calipari said to the Rupp Arena crowd, with few calling in via video. I thought we were Kentucky. I guess he was being joking. First of all, we were fine. Few replied, we were looking good, and you just said, hey, want to play? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good with playing. Blah, blah, blah. I said it needs to be in Spokane, few said, and some more banter between the two head coaches. They got down to specifics. November 20th would be great. That suits us. How about you?
Let's go.
Oh, we're time to get out. Oh, yeah, we're over. Well, we can't find out before we leave, so we'll have to come back tomorrow to find out. Man, it's been a great day. Cannot thank Dustin enough. Matt Taylor, Tyler Harris, Chris Denari, John, the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Back tomorrow with Alec Lasley, Zach Osterman, and plenty of IU basketball to talk about. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.